Welcome to my channel. American Eagle Flight 4184. A big thank you to my viewer for suggesting today's content. American Eagle Flight 4184 was a scheduled passenger flight, departing from Indianapolis, on its way to Chicago. It was on October 31, 1994 that the ATR-72 flew into severe icy conditions, where the pilots lost control of the aircraft and crashed into a field, killing all 68 people on board. The captain on Flight 4184 was Orlando Aguilar, aged 29. The first officer was Jeffrey Galliano, aged 30. Both were experienced pilots, and were experienced flying this aircraft. Due to bad weather that day, air traffic control asked Flight 4184 to hold, but it was while the aircraft was holding that it encountered the freezing rain and icy conditions. Finally, the aircraft was cleared to descend to 8,000 feet, but after the descent, the pilots were then ordered to hold again. During the descent, an overspeed warning sounded in the cockpit. The pilot retracted the flaps and altered the pitch attitude, but this was then followed by an uncommanded roll that disengaged the autopilot. The aircraft rolled 77 degrees to its right, where the ailerons moved to a natural position, and the aircraft began rolling back towards wings level. The plane then went completely inverted and was out of control. The aircraft descended and the ground proximity warning system sounded, followed by a loud crunching sound just before the cockpit voice recorder stopped. Sadly, the aircraft crashed into a soybean field. It was discovered that the aircraft hit the ground at around 432 miles per hour. From the wreckage, it was determined that both wings separated before the impact. The NTSB were brought in to investigate the accident, and they claimed that the probable cause was the loss of control. The BEA also conducted its own investigation into the crash, and agreed with the NTSB that the accident had been due to aileron deflection which led to the loss of control of the aircraft, but stated that this was due to pilot error and not because of the weather. It also blamed the air traffic control for not keeping an eye on the flight. The NTSB refuted the BEA's statement. Sadly, it was reported that in March 1995, some of the families of the victims discovered remains of their loved ones at the accident site, which came as a shock, and they claimed that the cleanup efforts were not thorough enough, but how true this is unclear. It has been reported that 3 other ATR-72s have since crashed due to icy conditions. Saudia Flight 163. Saudia Flight 163 was a scheduled passenger flight departing from Riyadh International Airport, on its way to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. It was on August 19, 1980 when the aircraft caught fire shortly after takeoff. On board were 287 passengers and 14 crew members. Sadly, all those on board died from smoke inhalation after the aircraft made an emergency landing at Riyadh International Airport. It had been just 7 minutes into the flight that the crew received a warning of smoke in the cargo compartment. They spent another 4 minutes trying to sort out the problem. The flight engineer, 42-year-old Bradley Curtis, went to the back of the cabin to confirm if there was any smoke. The crew then decided to return back to the airport, but found the thrust lever for the number 2 engine had become jammed due to the fire burning through the operating cable. It was at 21:29 that the engine was shut down. At 21:35, the pilots declared an emergency and landed back at Riyadh International Airport. Once the aircraft had come to a stop, the crew reported that they were shutting down the engines and ordering an evacuation of the aircraft. However, emergency services got to the aircraft and found that the engines were still running, preventing them from opening the doors. No external fire was seen at the time, but flames were observed through the windows at the rear of the aircraft. Just 3 minutes after this, the aircraft burst into flames and was consumed by the fire. The cause of the fire was undetermined, but it was believed that it could have been something in one of the passengers' luggage that caught fire. The crew were found still in their seats, and passengers on board were found in the forward half of the fuselage. All had perished from smoke inhalation. The investigation revealed that the fire had started in the cargo compartment, and had become so intense that it burnt through the cabin floor. The pilot was brought into question as to why he had taken so long to bring the aircraft to a stop, and why there wasn't an immediate evacuation ordered. What is still left unanswered is, could these people have gotten off the aircraft before it burst into flames? This will forever remain unanswered. We forever remember all those on board American Eagle's Flight 4184, and all those on board Saudia Flight 163. May you always be remembered. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel to view other content.